My name is Rick Rekedal, and I'm the creator of Shapes. I've been in the entertainment industry for 27 years. I started in the toy industry. Right out of college, I was working for toy companies. And after a few years, I went to the movie industry, and I joined DreamWorks Studios right at the end of the first year when DreamWorks first got going. And I was there for almost 21 years. I first fell in love with comic books through my college roommate. His name was Jeff. Jeff is no longer with us, but he was one of these guys that every week he was at the comic book store where they had pulled his titles, and he would come home and he would say, "Guys, keep it quiet, I'm reading my books." And he taught me how to look for the artists that he liked, how to look at the art as much as the words to understand the storylines, and I fell in love. When I first was in the toy industry, at Playmates Toys, I got a chance to do the action figures for Jim Lee's Wildcats. And Jim Lee, of course, is an icon in comic books. And I got to know Jim a little bit working on Wildcats, and then also did the action figures for Eric Larson's The Savage Dragon. Working for Playmates at that time introduced me to these icons at Image Comics. When I went to DreamWorks, I called Todd McFarlane and said, "Todd, I've got a movie here that I think you'd be great for the toys for," and that was Shrek. And so Todd came on board to do the toys for Shrek, and then a few years later we worked together again to do the toys for Wallace and Gromit and The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Having all of these luminaries around me encouraged me to think more about the comic book art form. And a few years ago, I had this idea that has now become Shapes. The story of Shapes starts with a young boy named Trip, who the day he turns 13 starts to experience these nightmares that he doesn't want to tell his mom about, because who would want to do that? And so he's trying to keep himself up at night, staring at the shapes on the wall in his bedroom. And pretty soon things start to go wavy. And the round shape of the clock pushes forward, and out comes this creature. And the creature has the unique characteristics of the round clock that it came out of. It turns out there are these three creatures that Trip is going to meet, the sovereigns, and each one is the captain of the shape that they represent. The captain of the Edge Army, the captain of the Curve Army, and the captain of the Breath Army. And these three sovereigns have been the keepers of the universe code. Turns out the whole universe is built on code. Now, our computer code is binary, ones and zeros, but universe code is called ternary code, ones, zeros, and negative ones. The ones are the edges, the zeros are the curves, and the negative ones are the breath. The story of Shapes is based on the premise that there are shaping influences that are part of how we grow up. For young Trip, after he turns 13 and he meets these shape monsters, he's going to get pulled into a much bigger story. Trip's dad has been missing since he was 3 years old, and he doesn't really know why. What we're going to find out is that his dad is actually part of this much bigger story that's going on. Those three sovereign creatures that are visiting Trip are there to ask for his help because something has happened to the universe code. The universe code is getting hacked. Now, a few years ago, the sovereigns put together a simulator that would help them figure out what's going on in the universe code. And the sovereigns published this simulator as an online game called Drift. Turns out Trip is #1 on the Drift leaderboard, and that's why the sovereigns have shown up in his bedroom that night. They figure if Trip is that good playing the game, then he should be able to help them in their quest to solve the problem of who's hacking the universe code. When I first started talking to the folks at Cave about Shapes, immediately we started talking about who would the right artist be to help bring Shapes to life. And they sent me a list of some of the biggest names in the comic book industry, and I was totally blown away. But #1 on their list was Jason Brubaker. Jason and I actually were at DreamWorks at the same time for a few years. Although we didn't always work on the same projects, we knew of each other. And working with Jason really was what I needed to help bring Shapes to life. Jason not only helped reflect back to me where the key story beats needed to be, but then of course he helped figure out all the panels, he helped figure out all the pacing and character design. The story of Shapes is really Trip's story, as he goes on this journey of meeting the sovereigns, understanding his role in protecting the universe code, and how to find the missing jagged army. The story behind Shapes is really the story of what it's like to come of age in a world where you're not sure what's coming next, which is pretty much the story of every teenager as they go through that experience, and that certainly was my story as well. When I think about Trip's journey, it isn't just about the crazy adventures that he goes on, but it's about the empowerment of what it's like to finally unlock the power within. I wanted to make a robot mech warrior property. I was inspired by properties like Robotech, Exo Squad, even Ripley and Aliens. There's something about climbing into a big mech suit that helps you feel empowered. When you're a teenage boy trying to figure out how the world works and you don't really have a lot of adults around you that can help you, you feel so lost until you can finally find your voice and plug in. And that's exactly what Trip does. So this is an Indiegogo campaign to produce the exclusive hardcover collected set of all of the Shapes issues. And there will be signed, numbered, special edition copies that you can bid on as a part of the campaign. And you even can bid on having some one-on-one time with me, which would be fantastic. I would love to meet you and hear about your projects as well. So thank you for watching. Please become part of the Indiegogo campaign and help bring the collected edition of Shapes to life.